Hey everybody, welcome to Kitchen Talk with Granna. This is Granna. I'm so glad you guys got a few minutes to come up into the kitchen with me. And today is the day that I do my one-on-one conversation, and I do have a guest in the kitchen with me today. I'm gonna bring Jimmy on in and let him start it out. He's just gonna give you guys just a little bit of his background and leading up to the topic that we're gonna be talking about today. I think our topic today is very interesting because a lot of us don't think about the topic that we're going to be talking about. So, Jimmy, thank you for hanging out with me in the kitchen today, and I'm going to let you just drop a little something on my people.
Okay, thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me to your show. Well, my name is Jimmy. I was in the Marine Corps for about 12 years. I'm from Georgia. I'm from Atlanta. I was in the Marine Corps for about 12 years. I decided to get out of the Marine Corps after I finished college. So when I got out, I did a lot of odd jobs. I worked at a Waffle House. I managed a Waffle House for about 4 months. I had my own painting contracting business. And pretty much what I did in that business was when people would move out of apartments, I would just paint them. Okay, but because I had college, I was kind of dissatisfied with those jobs. So one day I had to pick someone up for Waffle House because I was short somebody on that shift. So
Okay.
I ended up at a homeless shelter for teenagers, which was in this person's neighborhood. And there was a lady outside in her car, and I talked to her, and she happened to be like the director of that particular shelter. So I asked her about a job, and she told me she would give me a job on spot. And I went back and got a job.
Okay. So that brought you to the field of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about homeless teens. And I know a lot of us don't even think about teen as being homeless. You know, we look more for the adults being homeless. So once you got into that field and started doing that type of work, um, what was the biggest eye opener for you once you got into that field?
Well, it was the biggest eye opener for me was just the amount of homeless kids. And one of the major hangouts. This was 10 years ago. So one of the major hangouts back then was the underground Atlanta area. They would hang out in that area right there. But one of the biggest eye openers though was that homeless kids tend to spend their resources on clothing. Like they'll buy clothes, they'll buy shoes, they'll buy technology before they consider food. So
Wow.
it's kind of hard to tell them from a homeless adult. I mean,
Wow.
you can tell a homeless adult.
Right. You can absolutely tell homeless adult because most time when you see you're homeless, they're not dressed the best,
Mm.
and their outer appearance, you can just look at them and kind of see. But I would not think, like I said, you're saying the difference between the homeless adult and a homeless teen is the outer appearance because they're
Yeah,
going to keep themselves up.
pretty much. Typically when you see a homeless adult, they have, a water bottle in their hand, or they have some sort of food around, backpack. So it's like things you need to live, like, tents, backpacks, those types of things. When you see the homeless kid, they look like any other kid, you know, and it's just really, you have to get literally you have to get a feel for like who they are. After being out there, you kind of understand where they hang out, and you kind of get a feel for like their mannerisms and how they are. And when you walk up to them and talk to them, some of them will be like, hey, I'm not homeless. But a lot of them will be homeless, and they will accept that help.
Okay. So that was one of the questions, Lee. I was thinking about asking you. How do you the facility that you worked at? How do y'all get the home? I mean, how do y'all know that they're homeless and to go out and bring them in to help them? How do you get that?
So basically what we would do is we would drive around in a van at night. I was pretty much a driver, and we
Hmm.
had spots around Metro Atlanta we would go to. We would go downtown. We would go Fulton Industrial. That corridor has a lot of homeless kids, but there's also a lot of trafficking that goes on there, sex trafficking. So that's a
Wow.
pretty bad area. And we would go into just all over downtown Atlanta pretty much. And what we would do is we would drive up at night, which made it kind of dangerous. And we would just ask the kid, well, I guess that's one thing, they're out at night like that. So we would go up to them and be
Wow.
like, hey, do you want to, we have a shelter you can go to, you can get an education, you can get food, you can have a place to stay. And a lot of them, we give them a brochure, okay, and they would like look at it. But a lot of them would be like, okay, and we'll just pick them up and we take them to the shelter. Then they would do like an intake process, and they had to abide by the rules. If they didn't abide by the rules, then they got let go. So.
Oh, okay. So once you get them processed into the shelter and you get them going, uh, in y'all rules and policies, is it required for them because they're a teenager, or is it required for them to go to school? Because are they even in school?
Well, yeah, the type of school that they would go to typically was like a GED program. These are kids that are like, 16, 17, 18 years old. And I believe 19, maybe 18, 19 was the cutoff. But these were kids that were in like a GED program. So a part of it was they had to go to work. They had to have a job. And then they had to go to that GED program. And there became a certain time of night, like they couldn't leave out of their room. There were no fights, those types of things. So, yeah.
Okay. So, did you all offer any other type of service? Because, a lot of time when people are in those situations, it's something that drove them there, whether they had bad problems at home, they was abused. Did that facility offer any other type of psychiatrist or, any of those mental health things?
They had counselors there. They had counselors there that would talk to them. And they also had people that would come and they would offer like different classes on, different types of things, maybe finances and those types of things. But I think a lot of it came down to just some of the people that worked there and just their heart towards them. There was one guy that I'll mention him by name, this guy named Mr. Bob that I worked for. He's passed since then, but he was he was like a Vietnam veteran. He was just a very like straight shooter, but he was very nice to those kids and he would give them a lot of like fatherly type of advice, you know what I mean? So right. A lot of their help came from just people telling them from their life's experiences, hey, this is what you need to do, or this is what you don't need to do. But this place also had one unique thing. They had a thing that was kind of like a transition house. Okay. So what you would do is if you made it through the actual shelter, they had some apartments that they rented out space in. And they had somebody that stayed in one of the apartments all night, kind of like a resident, assistant or something like that. And you could have your own apartment and you had to work, but it was kind of like a transition to adulthood type thing. So they did all those types of things for them. But once again, they had those rules and those things set in place that they had to follow, to make sure that the program worked for them. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, how was your turnover with that? Did you have a lot of the teams that actually followed the program, wanted to do better, and, advanced on to getting jobs and becoming independent and becoming that responsible person? Was there a good turnaround for you guys on that?
That was the percentage varied. You had some kids who, so like I said, the sex trafficking thing was pretty big, right? So you had some kids, some girls in particular that showed like very good potential. Had good potential as far as like working like a normal job and having an education, those types of things. But they would just, you hear a rumor like, hey, she's hanging out with so-and-so. Next thing you know, she's gone, and you don't know where this kid went. She may call later. She may not, she may call and she's like in Michigan somewhere like a week later, Then you had some kids who dealt with mental illness just from things they had dealt with in their life. So you had kids who were used to, in a way, like taking care of themselves. So if they did leave the program, it wasn't because they were being rebellious. It was just because, hey, I can't deal with this mental issue that I have, even though they were getting a certain degree of help. Some things are, you may be too, the person may be too far gone at that point, but those kids knew how to go out and do what they had to do to survive. So they would go and get like, laborer type jobs and do whatever. You hear about them. But some of them did go on and do, what they had to do with their life.
Right. Well, I can understand that because, like I said, once you take a person out of one environment, you put them in a structured environment, and that's any of us. It can be hard to adjust and just want to do that. It's hard to change, make that change and stuff. So I can definitely understand that. Well, while the teens was there, was there points where y'all ever had other contact with was able to get contact with their family members and let them know they were safe and they was okay?
No, and that's the odd thing. I've never really thought of that, but now that you say that, those children, they were the type that were, I won't say they were parentified because they weren't really taking care of anybody but themselves, but
Yeah,
they had become adults, I think, at that point. They may not
yeah,
have known how to be an adult. They may not have had the best plan for it, but at that point, they were pretty much,
yeah.
independent, had been independent, and just were doing their own thing at that point.
Right, right. I thought about that because I know a lot of times teens do come up missing, and when
Mhm.
they're found or they're ended up in a shelter, the parents or the family members just so grateful that that child was found and they was able to reconnect and and bring that child home. So I was wondering if any of the kids ever had that chance to get back to their families.
At that particular one, I never experienced that. No, but I'm
Oh,
sure that is something that does happen.
okay, okay. Wow, it's just really interesting because, like I said, you just don't think about teens. I mean, you hear of families being homeless, because of situations, losing jobs and stuff like that, but it's usually a family that, that has the kids, with them.
Yeah, well, there's a shelter downtown Atlanta. It's called Pine Street, and I believe it's still there. It's on Pine Street, and it's a
Hmm.
pretty big shelter. And I believe that shelter does families. But I think it's set up in a way that where the women and the children stay on one level, and then the husbands and men stay on a different level. So there
Okay.
are families like that. But in Atlanta, though, if you go into downtown, specifically on the south side, when you're near what now is like Georgia State University, their stadium,
Yeah.
there's a lot of tents. It's like a tent city under there because I believe under Kasim Reed, I think he pretty much moved the homeless out of the city, so they just like went to under the bridges. But a lot of the families, though, you don't see a lot of the families out, and I think that's because a lot of the shelters may prioritize like getting kids in. You know what I mean? So a
Yeah.
lot of the
Yeah.
ones you see out on the streets are like just the adults. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I can understand that because, you want to definitely try to keep the families together when they're in that situation and help them out as much as possible. And then you have a lot of adults and, as you were saying, older teens that just don't want to be in that environment. They are survivors. They want to stay out there
Yeah.
and not have to follow any type of rules or any of that stuff. So they like, being out on their own. So I can understand that. Wow.
Yeah, that is
So that
unfortunate.
yeah, yeah, that is it really is. And it's just something that happens. And it's in all the cities. It's not just in Atlanta, it's
Yeah.
everywhere, but people don't, seem to talk about it as much. Or if they see it, they just kind of look at it sideways and keep on moving,
Mhm.
because with the teens, you don't know people's story. Everybody has a story. You don't know why they're in that situation or how they got in that situation. So it's just sad. I think it's really sad when it comes
Yeah,
to our teens.
I think people do. They tend to put homelessness and all these different things in the urban areas when it's like everywhere, and everybody
Absolutely.
deals with it differently, like in their own way.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's worldwide. It's not just in one
Yeah,
particular race or group or anything like that. But
yeah,
yeah, that's very interesting and stuff. Oh, wow. So I hope that by us having this conversation about the homeless, that it helps some people out and they'll look at people differently because it's like I said, it's already hard enough when I worked in customer service. I worked for this number one retail store. I don't know if
mhm,
I can say the name or whatever, but working there, being in management, we used to have a lot of homeless to come into our stores. And I really, I would try to give them water or get them something because I felt sorry. But then a lot of people just look down on them and stuff. And it's
yeah,
just really sad and
yeah,
everything. But I do appreciate you coming into the kitchen with me, putting out a little bit of education when it comes to homeless teens and just your
okay,
experience that you had with it. I really do appreciate it. And maybe in the future you can come back and we can talk on some other subject because I definitely enjoyed having a conversation with you.
well, thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you too. I hope I did a good job speaking to you
Yes,
today, so I
yes,
appreciate
yes, I really appreciate it. I'm about to get ready and get out of here. But before I go, I'm going to let my people know that they need to go back at the end of this conversation and give me some love, give me some thumbs up, share my video with all your family and friends. And if this is the first time you're checking out Kitchen Talk with Granna, you're in a good place because this is the first one-on-one conversation I've had on my new
Okay.
adventure for this year. So Jimmy is my first guest. So guys, go back and check us out and give us some love. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I'm gonna let you get out of here, and I'm gonna let the
Okay.
people go. And everybody, just have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
All right. Hey, you're welcome. You have a good day too.
All right, thank you.